Welcome to Level Up CX Live, where we discuss the biggest trends and opportunities facing customer experience. I'm Greg Thomas from Genesys, and today we're going to talk about how AI is transforming financial services. And to do that, I'm joined by two senior leaders. Nilesh Vaidya is Executive Vice President and Head of Market Development Group at Capgemini Financial Services. Welcome. And Alex Ball is Senior Vice President of Genesys Cloud CX here at Genesys. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
And so, Nilesh, let's start with you. Agentic AI is emerging as a transformative force in the industry. From your perspective, how would you assess the maturity of agentic AI? Is it still hype, or are you starting to see it deliver real business value?
Yeah, great question. What we see is banks have been on the financial services, banks have been on the journey of customer experience transformation. They really need it because they have to really compete with the most of fintechs and the various new entrants in the market. Right? So they would love to use any advantage they would get there. And so earlier it was the generative AI that could bring in some new capabilities. So the agentic AI is new, but it still brings a really useful value. It brings the ability to connect the dots across different parts in the organization, and they can utilize it, right? So even though it's very new, there are many banks who are using it, and that early mover advantage is key. So I see that this is not just hype, it's getting to reality. And we see more and more banks and insurance companies starting to adopt it.
No. And Alex, what about you? Do you agree with that? Past the hype and into real business value?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look across the board from an AI perspective, hype has been one of the words that goes right alongside with it. I think the agentic components is one where the business outcomes will line up to the hype that it's bringing. I think when we look across the enterprise, a lot of businesses are putting agentic into POCs, but there are big enterprises that are putting that into production today. Yeah. And so you're starting to see the early innings of the business results that are coming out of that. And I think it will be a transformative technology that will live up to the hype that it's bringing.
Awesome. So, Alex, let's stay with you for a second. And can you talk a bit about the role of a customer experience platform and a broader ecosystem? And maybe in particular, as you think about AI, what's the role of a technology provider like Genesys relative to helping customers realize those business outcomes more broadly, not just delivering sort of individual point features?
So I think one of the things when I think about a CX platform and a customer experience platform is the fact that the customer experience doesn't just happen in the call center, which is kind of traditionally that CX moniker. It happens in the entire journey, all the way from the first time that person even searches something on the web to the time when they might have something that they need to have repaired or replaced or a service call. And so thinking about the orchestration of that entire journey certainly is one that I think Genesys as the CX orchestrator is a really strong position to be in. But it's also one that has a lot of other pieces of the ecosystem that are involved, and that's something that Capgemini can really help with, is bringing together the fact that data, which is the key to the AI experience, right? If you don't have great data, your AI is not going to be great. So you've got to be able to stitch together interaction data from Genesys, but also data from financial services backends, from even down to the point of people walking into a bank branch. How do you stitch all of this together so that you create one cohesive journey that maybe you can provide AI services on top of?
Yeah, and I really like that you started with the notion that it is an experience, right? It's not just that single point in time of the customer's journey. It's that entirety. And if I think about my own experiences, pun intended, it's that whole breadth, right? And anywhere along the line, we can be made or broken.
And what's amazing when you think about the measurements of CX, like customer satisfaction or lifetime customer value, repeat business, it is amazing how if you do CX really well, those numbers shoot through the roof to the point that they're higher than if they had no interaction with you to begin. That if you have that interaction and you do it really well, you will consistently deliver lifetime customer value.
Yeah, and if I may build on that, right? If you look at the financial services, credit cards, right? That's one product that's really sold on experience. It's not just about what's the interest rate on that, right? It's really about experience. And so customers and the card issuers and the cards, right? They're all looking to bring in that experience. Which means it needs a customer experience platform. They need to understand the customer. They need to understand what they're doing out in various as they browse and look at new offers. But they're also looking at their own internal data. So you really need the customer experience platform to marry these things together.
I know. So let's sit with you, Nilesh, for a second. And so financial services is a very regulated industry. And as you think about issues like trust and compliance and explainability of AI algorithms, those are critical things. So as you think about the hurdles that are facing enterprises who are adopting AI and moving into agentic AI use cases, how do you talk to your customers about thinking about these issues that sort of build trust with their customer base while delivering these more advanced AI use cases?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the key topic with the folks. But I mean, if I take an example of an insurance company, they have regulators in the United States in every state, and it's really about being able to explain why they underwrote a certain policy. Was there a fair policy to ride? I mean, that there wasn't a bias in it. They need to know that this makes sense and it's fair to everybody. So the key is to look at how they are able to understand what are the key factors that go into it. So as we talk to the customers, we start by we understand the regulatory issues. We've been working with them. It is for us to explain the entire chain of thoughts of that AI on how it has worked. We have to explain why certain decisions have been taken and being able to trace it back to the data. We have to explain how these tie in with the accepted policy. So that's a discussion. I mean, in a way, it's not new. We've been working on these kind of topics outside of the AI world for a long time. And now it's for us to explain it in the context of the AI. And that means we really need a lot of understanding of the data, both the internal data, the policies, and the procedures, and how they work on it. That's really the hard part. So when a customer is looking at it and just does a quick proof of concept in a matter of weeks, it takes a very long time to put this into production. And a lot of that time is really about going through this whole process, proving to themselves and being able to prove to the regulators that this is a very thought through solution. You can work through it and implement it properly, right? So that's the whole journey. It needs the understanding of the platform. It needs the understanding of the policies and the procedures and the regulatory expectations. And it has the ability of the understanding of the models and being able to prove that, right? So there's a variety of things that go into it.
Alex, what would you add about responsible AI and the need to make sure that as things are being developed, that customers can really understand, how is this thing built? What's it doing with my data? So that they have that trust and that sort of confidence.
I think a lot of it is that trust and transparency. So being able to understand what are the models that are being used, how is the data being leveraged, how is it being ingested, how is it trained. In all of those scenarios, we have model cards at Genesys that provide, I think just for one use case, it's a 50-page model card that'll articulate, here's all the data, here's where we're sourcing it from, here's the parts that are using AI, whether it's agentic or whether it's generative or simply predictive. And being able to share that with customers allows their customers to be able to share it to their end users. Because I think that's one of the important things it's all about the flow down. So what we're providing to our customers is important for them to then create the trust with their end users in order to drive adoption, because nobody's going to use it if they don't trust it. So it is really important that trust and transparency is there.
So as we wrap up, if you had to give one piece of advice to the folks watching, as they're thinking how they want to embrace agentic AI in their organizations, what would that be? Like, what do you think is the most important message you could leave them with?
Yeah, see, in order to really embrace AI and the agentic AI, it is all about data. So you need to know your own data well, and that is the data that's coming from the customer interaction. So it's the platform Genesys provides, which has the event data, which is critical to bring in the AI interactions. As we've seen, there are lots of foundation models, more and more are coming, a lot of new models that are built in, but it's really the data that makes the difference. So getting the data ready for AI is the key thing. And I would urge everybody to pay attention to that. And that data is in silos across the organization. So pulling it together from the core Genesys system, from the CRM system, from your customer interactions, all of that is key. And that is what I would urge them to get their data together and pay attention to that.
What would you add, Alex?
I would say don't wait. I was listening to a podcast from an AI practitioner this weekend. He said that businesses that own the AI space will win in the next 12 months. So I think if we're waiting, we will miss the boat. So my advice is get started now. Regardless of the technology that you have today, you can leverage some of the agentic components right out of the box. And I think starting to get some incumbency in that space and starting to get some traction underneath you will give you the data points that will allow you to grow. Because if you wait, others aren't, and we'll miss the boat.
Yeah, I think those are both really good points, because data is the lifeblood of these algorithms. And I think when things are moving fast, it can be tempting to wait for perfection. But if you don't get in there, identify those use cases and start, to your point, you're just going to be further and further behind. Well, Nilesh and Alex, thank you so much for joining me today on Level Up CX Live, sharing your expertise and your insights with us. And thank you to the audience for joining us as well. If you'd like to learn more, click the link in the comments, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and get notified about our next show. And we'll see you on the next Level Up CX Live. Thanks for watching.